Garbrandt and a Sun Tzu just fought. So that kind of brings the conclusion to the bantamweights for the evening. All that's left is the main event. The gals are going to go out there in just a few minutes and figure out that world championship. But Garbrandt's an interesting one, and I have to tell you why. The announcement that was made yesterday that Sterling versus Sandhagen was a title eliminator fight. I believe that. I believe that going in. But we all know things have to play out. We all have to know at the end of the evening, the other decisions do come in and can be made appropriately. And while I am looking at Sandhagen and Sterling with the information that we were giving, I can't help but notice that a Sun Tzu and Cody are the co-main event. So it's a little hard for you to make me just swallow as a whole that Sterling and Sandhagen is the feature match when the same weight class is coming up later. Oh, and by the way, happens to involve a former world champion. So the big question on Cody was a number of things. And there is allegedly a storyline that he has become chinny. Chinny would be a colloquial slang expression for meaning his chin is gone, which is a very real thing in fighting. And when it goes, it doesn't come back. But that's not an absolute statement, guys. There is ways to bring your chin back. For example, resting it. The fact that Cody was out since March of last year told me he has likely rested that chin. Now, I don't know that we can fully say that because I don't know that he was tested in the same way. One thing that happens with Garbrandt, and it is possibly the only criticism I could give this guy, is he'll get pissed off in the middle of a fight. If you hit him, he will throw everything out the window and want to hit you back. Even if that means sacrificing position, which means sacrificing defenses, which means leaving yourself vulnerable for some big shots. He did not do that tonight. Now, the other side of that, I don't know that we can award him for his maturity as much as he just never got pissed off because he never took that big clip from a Sun Tzu. He looked composed. His footwork was great. He was fast. He was powerful. But I can say that about every Cody Garbrandt fight. The guy's a great fighter. The guy was champion of the world. Right, he only has a couple of things to work on. So when you see him tonight, you go, wow, that sure was impressive. And not to mention, a Sun Tzu is a pain in the ass. I mean, a Sun Tzu is just a naturally short guy for the division, which means he's very hard to get under, which is why you next to never see him getting taken down. He also reminds me a lot of Kelvin Gastelum for that weight class. Kelvin Gastelum has a way to just get in a fighting stance, to just merely put his hands up. And the way that he's built, his shoulders are so big, his shoulders will come out and just protect his face. There's nothing to hit. Kelvin Gastelum could go out of his way to show you a chin. You're just not going to find it. If his hands are up, you're just not going to find it. But that same thing carries over to a Sun Tzu. So a Sun Tzu is a hard fight. And I don't really know who was winning that fight. Even the commentators were kind of going back and forth on that. It looked like it was about to be a round apiece, possibly, guessing here. Point beating, Cody goes out, stops it with like a second left. Not to mention it was the Mark Hunt-esque walk away knockout point where you throw the punch and you just start walking to your corner as your opponent is still falling. I mean, from a visual standpoint, it's spectacular. And I don't know how much I'm buying this whole Aljo versus Sandhagen. Very hard to deny. Could have Aljo looked any better? No, he couldn't. But even in a court of law, there's a reason the defense gets to go second, is to give the defense every single benefit of the doubt. And even if Cody did this 15 minutes after Aljo did it, he still got to go second. And it matters. And I'm only attempting to guess what will be in people's minds come tomorrow. And I'll tell you, the bantamweight division isn't all that clear, guys. You look at Marlon Moraes, okay? He knocked out Rivera. He finished a Sun Tzu. He KO'd Sterling. His last fight, he beat Jose Aldo. He's ranked number 1, and I'm not hearing his name. I'm just not hearing his name. And if I was to offer for you what possibly in hindsight with the evidence we have been given tonight, now that the bantamweight experience has come to a conclusion, as opposed to anointing Aljo or Cody, the number 1 contender, because we have to wait a period of time to get Jan and Aldo in there, it would seem as though whoever had the more impressive performance, and I'm not here to pass judgment on that. I'm just imagining what the roundtable talk will be. Whoever that person is, would then go and fight Marlon. That would be your true number one contenders match. Possibly on the same date, the same night, the same card of Aldo versus Jan. Am I getting ahead of myself? Yeah. Yeah, I am. But am I making a lot of sense? I mean, doesn't it make sense to have the number one ranked guy who is Marlon in this conversation? Yeah, of course it does.